realistic parks, we've all seen them, whether it's a crazy huge mega park on YouTube, something on the toolkit, or even some stuff on the community tab.
Embarrassing!
And I've always wanted to make one of those, and when your park looks like this, there's only one way to go, so I loaded up a sandbox and immediately went on YouTube to look at some tutorials. Alright, so my goals for this park was to, number 1, keep it small, and number 2, make it a pirate theme. Alrighty, so every park needs a good coaster, so that's what I'm going to start with. And for this one, I'm going to be going with the launch coaster. And just a warning, I do not know all the fancy names for the elements, so bear with me. So I first started with the launch straight out of the station, and for good measure, I added a little airtime hill. Then I followed it up with a roll that I made up, which took me a few attempts to get right. I feel like that's a little bit too intense. I'm gonna rebuild this. But eventually I got it right, and I followed it up with a very steep hill which plummeted straight into some very intense turns, and of course another airtime hill. I then added a helix into 2 airtime hills. Then it goes into basically a miniature roll of the first one. Then it goes into a helix that rolls and then goes in the other way into some more airtime hills. That leads to the brake run into the station. Okay, so now that the coaster is done, it's time to start decorating. But first, I need to change the color of all of this stuff because this does not look like a pirate theme. Alright, I mean, I guess it's better. It still doesn't really look like a pirate. So I wanted to add water to this area because I saw this guy do it, and honestly, you should subscribe to him because it looks 1,000 times better than whatever I made. Not to mention, this took me an entire hour, but the show must continue. So I took a break from decorating the coaster and began to decorate the queue. Now, I wanted this queue to be on top of a hill, so that's what I started with. Next, to cover up all the ugliness of the default station, I added some sandstone walls around it. Then I added a queue cover and completely forgot that you have to add the fence before you make the queue cover. Next, I wanted to continue the sandstone brick look from earlier and expand on it by making it the entire theme of the station. And I think it looks pretty good, you know? Then I took some inspiration for some shade covers from Moomin, and by take some inspiration, I mean completely steal his design. Finally, I added some really cool lantern string thingies, and I was finished. With the queue, that is, not the entire thing. So I feel like a lot of launch coasters do something cool for their launch, and I also wanted to be considered cool, so I made this simple water and lights launch that consists of 36 triggers. Now, for some reason, the launch starts at a snail's pace. I don't know why it does this. It's already too late to change it, but I guess it's fine. And to finish the launch, I added this nice planter thingy, and I also added some decorations around it. However, currently the scenery around this area is looking quite bare, so I'm gonna change that. Boom! I really hope that transition was cool. There we go, not so bare anymore. And now that the coaster was finished, it's time to build the plaza. So I started with laying out the path, then I covered that up with some wood. And what's a plaza without some good restaurants? So I got to work building this pirate-themed chief beef and cosmic cow. And I'm gonna be honest, I was just throwing down random pieces that looked cool. And that's how I got this. I also used this method to make the 2 other buildings, and as you can tell, I got progressively lazier. And after that was done, I added some rope fence around the plaza and some more decoration. But right now, half the queue is still looking very empty, so I just copy and pasted some scenery. And you can never go wrong with some more rope fence. And for some reason, this thing was starting to look very similar to the Indiana Jones line. And the last thing I added was some handrails and some rocks that I also copy and pasted. And actually, I lied because this was definitely not the last thing I added. because I needed to do a lot of finishing touches. And once that was done, my build was finally finished. Okay, now time for the verdict. I think this build was super fun, but it was also extremely time consuming, and it's not even omega realistic like some of the builds on YouTube. But considering I came from this, I think it was a pretty good improvement. Anyways, if you guys want me to make part 2, I'm gonna need 100 likes. Also, can someone please get this purple box off my planet coaster?